4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see that Twitter feed. Good evening. Once again, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Please follow the show, latenightparents.com. And I'm hearing the echo feedback. Oh,
Not the
it's
echo feedback.
killing me. Do you have your audio up loud?
Not too loud. Is that better?
1 2 1 2.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I can hear you just fine.
Okay. So had a rough start. Where do we get started? In the queue, we got Danny Thompson, one of my favorite people to talk about sports, media, and the like. Danny, how you doing?
You know what, Ted? The one thing the beauty about live streaming or anything else is you never know what possibly could happen.
No,
So
and we were fine before, and then all of a sudden, kaboom!
listen, it seemed like the Mets when we went down to Atlanta this week. We had a 6 game lead, and next thing you know, boom, we lose 2 games back to back.
Yeah, I know. But do we even know what happened tonight?
I think they're down
Oh,
probably. Uh,
the Grom pitched tonight.
we lost three
We
to two.
lost. We can never support Jacob DeGrom. He's
Well,
cursed.
actually, DeGrom gave up 3 tonight, so
But I'm saying we can never support Jacob DeGrom with run support.
Ted, listen, he gave up 3 runs tonight. DeGrom is never supposed to give up 3 earned runs in the game.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
they took 3 from 4.
They took 3 or
I mean,
4.
yeah,
So they're still up 4.5.
I think it's 4.5. I think it's
All
four
right,
and a half.
that's fine. I mean, you would have liked the 2-2 split,
Yeah, to keep everything even.
but we took 4 out of 5 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
They take 3 out of 4 this time, so yeah, I'm okay with that.
I mean, actually, it's 10. It's 3.5. Actually, now it's 3.5. We're down to 3.5.
Oh, it's 3.5. Okay. Well,
And
now I'm a little nervous.
and then we see them the final week of the season. I think in Atlanta.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah, the schedule makers didn't do us any justice by putting the 10 of the first 13 games in New York.
Right. But that's
But
okay. That's how it's supposed to be. If you're 3.5 up with 3 to go, hey, you win the division.
listen, and this new format is you just got to finish the top 2. You got to have one of the 2 best records.
That's
Because
it.
remember they added the new wild card team this year, so
Right.
that makes things even more wonky.
Brett Beatty.
Yes, called up from
Truth.
Charlotte, first game home run.
The truth.
Listen, we just need a bat. The Mets need some kind of offensive jolt. Is it me or is it Pete Alonso tired after the home run derbies? But he just
Well, if you look at most of those players that participate in that home
the
run
derby.
derby, the second half of the season, kicking out. Once they get out of the second half of the season, you're just like there's no pop.
What I think Rodriguez got hurt. I think 1 or 2 games after the break for
Yes.
Seattle. Soto got traded and hasn't done Juan Soto things. What Polar Bear has not been hitting like he should be hitting. Yeah. Acuna's not been Acuna's been all right, but you're right. It's the second half glitch, but we're gonna need Polar Bear Pete to show up because all we know is if we get to the 8th and 9th inning and we're up, you already know what's gonna happen to Shea. You're gonna hear the horn. You hear the trumpets.
I wish we were in Shea. This is City Field now, my friend.
Yeah, City Field Shea. We all know what it is, Ted.
Yeah.
Throwback stage. We know what it is.
I just feel with the NFL being the NFL and the NBA being the NBA, The MLB can never catch a break.
No, Ted. Listen, two strikes, and the fact of the commissioner is still clueless on how to promote
Worst.
baseball.
The worst.
And it's crazy because baseball. This is the most televised baseball I've seen on the multiple networks. You know, everybody has packages nowadays. It seems like.
But is that a mistake?
No, Ted. It's the more the merrier, Ted. You have three of the four major networks literally participating in baseball in some sort of way. ABC, Disney, ABC or Disney, which is basically ABC, ESPN, is in one side. You have Fox on one side. You have NBC using Peacock. So the only network that's not involved in baseball is CBS.
Right.
Unless you really count CBS as part of the Turner family, then you got something for everybody.
It is when it comes to the NBA, but
It's like a distant cousin.
yeah. Um, I just, I've had discussions at work with other baseball fans, and we sit and we talk about for the median baseball age is 57. Okay, so for the older folks, it's hard, Danny, to sit here after all these baseball packages are carved up, and you sit here and say, okay, I want to find the Yankees, and I turn to WPIX, and I'm like, where are the games? And they're over there on Amazon,
Mm.
or Sunday you're sitting there and the games are on Peacock, or Friday nights they're on Apple for double headers, and you just like, I'm like, okay, you've just asked someone to purchase three streaming services. So,
And
I mean, I
then,
get it. We're all greedy. We all want the best of the best. We want to squeeze every last dollar out. But does that benefit the casual fan?
but I think Ted, the problem is, you mentioned the baseball demographic being 57 years old.
Mm,
They're not doing a service to attract the younger audience.
mm-mm.
I mean, yes, you put it on every streaming service, but here's the thing: baseball players, as much money as they make, they're not marketed very well. You
No,
know, we're looking at Shohei Ohtani, who's doing amazing things. But just the other night, was it last night? I think he was like the first player to hit a home run and a triple in the same game. I think he started as well too. And the problem is the Angels are so trash that every time he breaks some kind of record, they end up losing.
yeah,
You have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on the same team. That sounds like Kobe. It's like Kobe and Shaq. When it comes to the talent on baseball rosters, and they can't get it together. To get them marketed correctly. Even without Fernando Tatis in San Diego, you're looking at one of the most talented teams in Major League Baseball. A park that stays full, but no one knows about it.
So I want to
You
stop you
mentioned
for a second. I want to stop you for a second. This Fernando Tatis, didn't he sign the mega deal already?
he signed it. He signed it. Then he got into the accident. He hurt his wrist in the offseason. I think it was in an accident on a
Mm-hmm.
motorcycle. He was nursing his way back to health. Was
Okay.
literally about maybe a week away. He was in his final stages before he was going to rejoin the lineup. It got popped. But previous to that pop, before he got caught with PEDs or on the cream, he never had failed a drug test. So this is technically one of those things that we talked about on my radio show. Yes, he did get caught with PEDs, but because of the fact that he's never failed a drug test before, and this happened in a season where he hadn't played one single game all season, does it really affect his legacy that much? Because it wasn't like he was hitting the baseball anyway. He
Right.
was out. He was injured. He was recovering from injury. So it's going to hurt the fact that you're going to see one of the most talented players and a marketable name not available for the playoffs. When you need ratings, and baseball is, you have to market players. He's 23, 22 years old.
I
He
know.
should be on everybody's list. He's the cover guy of MLB The Show. He's the guy, 2 years ago, he's the guy that's the face of baseball. And he'll be faceless as the Padres fight for the wild card, and he won't be there.
Right. Big shout out to Tony D. Thank you for chiming in. Hope you feel better. the way. Um, we won't delve too deep into MLB because I know we're tight on time. But I like to bob and weave around the major, sports organizations. Word came down yesterday about Deshaun Watson. 11 games, $5 million. Is this a win for Deshaun Watson?
He better not appeal. This is where we are at this point. You
Agreed.
know, the if Roger Goodell really wanted to suspend him for a year, they should have just put the hammer down from the very beginning, went through arbitration, and called it a day. Now, this is what we call the perfect example of compromise. All right, the 11 game suspension is compromise. I
Okay.
know we're not here to discuss whether Deshaun's innocent or guilty because by two judges in the state of Texas, he is considered innocent of the charges he was accused of. But at the end of the day, whether he was charged or not, he broke the player conduct policy. And not only did he broke it, he drop kicked it, threw it, drop kicked it, gave it the figure four, and made it tap out. Because we've never seen anything like this. A guy gets hit with 25 charges, 25 accusers, 25 different things. And the NFL technically only brought four to the case, but since he did all this, it dragged on over a year. It is still technically in the mainstream media because there's still one woman that has not settled with Deshaun Watson at this
Ah,
point. The suspension was inevitable. We all know Goodell wanted a full season. That wouldn't have flown. The 6 games they weren't happy. The Watson camp wasn't happy with either. The heavy medium is take the 11, sign the agreement, don't say anything, because what Watson's camp really doesn't want is suspension into 2023, where Watson's paycheck gets really hit hard.
right.
I think he's making almost $3 million a game next season. You don't want nothing
Yes.
that money getting touched.
It's just the only thing I will say to you, Danny, is it's just very shady the way the contract was put together.
Oh yeah, and the
They
thing is,
knew
I
what
think
was
there's
what.
another part to it. I think you're right. The other contract was the other part to it. I
Yeah,
think if the Cleveland Browns would have done a regular contract instead of trying to backload it so the first year won't get touched, the 6 game suspension and Watson losing 6 game checks would have been the equivalent of almost what $15 million on top of the 6 games. The
right,
NFL would have been, I think they would have been okay with the 6 games, but because of the fact of they didn't touch it, and he's only making $1 million in salary, what is that? What kind of punishment is that? It's nothing. So they got 5 million. It's supposed to go to charity, and then it's supposed to the NFL and the Browns are supposed to give 1 million apiece to other parts of it. So Deshaun lost something. I was not a fan of the 11 game suspension. I still say he should have got the whole year because he made the NFL look completely stupid. But I get it. Other players got 6. Watson should get 11. It is what it is. We'll take the compromise and we'll get up on our way. And now I'm looking at StubHub ticket prices for that Browns and Texans game. It's almost $100 a ticket for Watson's first game, and that first game will be week 12, week 13 in Houston, of all places.
yeah. That's some stuff. That's some stuff right there. Hey, let's um really quick dip over to the NBA. I guess we'll talk about two divas. Maybe we shouldn't call them divas. Two icons. What's the deal with the latest with Kevin Durant?
So I broke that. There's really nothing to it at this point. If the Nets will move Kevin Durant, it'll be after December 15th when all players who sign extensions will still be available to be traded. You hear the word about DeAndre Ayton. Ayton has a no trade clause in year one because of the offer sheet that was signed. He has that right to do so. The only team that Ayton cannot be traded to is the Indiana Pacers because they put the offer sheet on for him. If you're Brooklyn, if you're gonna make sure that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant come to camp, that's what you
Okay.
got to do. Make sure they come to camp. Doesn't matter what kind of mood they're in. Durant's a basketball player, so him missing games, even though there was a report that Mark Stein says talked to an NBA executive, Kevin Durant loves basketball too much. He's not going to miss time. Okay, he'll be upset and disgruntled and everything else. But really, the Nets are just hoping that if they have to move him, they hope that some team gets hit with an injury. We
Hmm.
don't want it to happen, or off to a slow start. Because let's just say a team up I-95 in Boston gets off to an extremely slow start and everything doesn't look right. You don't think they'll try to make that swap to get KD into Celtics green?
I think they will.
You will.
I
I
think they
mean,
will.
or as Toronto gets off to a slow start, or they feel like they're off to a championship level start, will Kevin Durant give the city of Toronto that same boost that Kawhi Leonard gave them? When he was traded there in a contract year. But like I said, I don't see Durant being moved for the foreseeable future, at least until after December. It might be somebody's Christmas gift. And the NBA doesn't know what they're doing because you saw how many national TV games Brooklyn got this year.
Yeah. So let's talk about aggregation. You mentioned Mark Stein's article or his Substack. Aggregation, the aggregators, the aggregation machine focused on the word retirement with Durant, not the other 500 or 600 words that were written. What do you say about the aggregation sites?
I mean, it's there to draw attention. It draws attention to articles and Mark's case, or even Ethan Strauss. We got the brilliant article about was the Warriors a couple weeks ago, and he's written so much good work about behind the paywall. I think those target words get people to that website to allow them to subscribe to find the article out. So I think for me, when you hear that word retirement, you just make sure that when you hear it, you have to read the whole subsect, just the whole article, because they explain what he was saying by the word retirement in that article. But it's the same as everything, Ted. You watch television, you watch advertising. You have to advertise to get people to come where you are. I mean, if it's one word out of everything, it's that word that's used in context. But it's there to get you there. Mark Stein's trying to pay his bills by getting people to subscribe to Substack. But Mark Stein never said this. He said that it's more likely that Durant will be on the court than listening to that executive who said Durant will probably, or there's a chance Durant will retire.
Right,
So that wasn't the word out of Mark Stein's mouth, but as we all know, if the person who wrote it, it must have come out their mouth.
right. No one reads, no one pays attention, no one is it. I mean, do we just say people are just dumb, or people are just
I
like,
think people just read. People read what they want to read and interpret what they want to interpret. You know, Ted, we could say right now, we could talk about one thing, but the thing sometimes people take that way out of context.
okay,
You know, we could say something about, let's just say, the Nets are not in a better place than they were 2 years ago, and it's because of Sean Marks. And then someone's going to take the article and say, "Oh, Danny Thompson said that Sean Marks should be in trouble because the Nets are in trouble because the Nets are not where they're supposed to be." That's not what I
right.
said. It was just flipped out of context. That's just how it works in the media.
So let's talk about Josai. Josai has the power to say, you know what, you're not going anywhere. I know it's a players' league, and I know the players have all the power and everything else like that. Josai has the power to say, you signed a 4-year deal. We are officially 1 month into your 4-year deal. You're not going anywhere, period. Why doesn't he?
I think if you read between the lines, of course, like any team, any sport, no matter what it is, if someone's inquiring about a player in the roster, you're going to look into it. And also, as that team that has player A, you're going to tell teams what it's going to take to get player out of the system and into yours. And the Nets have made it abundantly clear that it's going to be almost impossible to get Kevin Durant out of there.
Okay,
We're talking more draft picks than what Utah gave up. Utah received, I mean, more picks than Minnesota gave up for Rudy Gobert. You're
okay,
talking if Gobert got 5, Durant, you're going to ask for about 6 to 7 with Kevin Durant. And the thing is, it's going to be a point where a team has to get extremely desperate. You have to trade multiple years worth of first rounders. The Nets want a young all star. They want young, proven players to go with that young all star. So they're trying to rebuild on the fly, and very few teams can do that. So, um, like I said, KD and then Kyrie situation, they'll be in Brooklyn to start the season with Steve Nash. If anything, I think Nash will get fired before anybody else leaves.
Okay, so let's go to the other coast. Yesterday, I don't know. Yeah, was it last night or was it yesterday? LeBron
Mm-hmm.
James signed his 2 year agreement. It can only be a 2 year agreement because of his age of 38 years old. Is that a good
Mm-hmm.
deal for the Lakers or a better deal for LeBron James?
I think it's a good deal for all parties involved. Here's the thing. The Lakers aren't winning this year. LeBron gives them the best chance to win. LeBron keeps people watching. The Lakers have, 30 games on national TV. People will be watching the Lakers because guess what? LeBron James should hit the NBA scoring record hopefully sometime in late December, early part of January, barring any type of injuries. What this does for the Lakers is that you keep that window open for 2 years with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You make sure they try everything possible. If you trade Russell Westbrook or let it come off the books next summer, you add Kyrie Irving. You'll figure out what it is. And so the Lakers have all that attraction for them for the next 2 years until you get to the 24-25 season where LeBron James and Anthony Davis run player options and there's nobody else on the roster but second round picks that they'll acquire over the next 2 years. This is perfect because if you're a LeBron guy, you get all the money you're looking for, and you still get to opt out to go play with your son in 2 years when I think Bronny will be in the NBA. Now this gives the Lakers even more goodwill with Rich Paul because hey, I'm paying a 39-year-old LeBron James $47 million next season, which allows you to say, okay, in 24-25, I've done your guy a favor.
Right.
Now you could either help us stay and rebuild this team because you have the clientele to help us do it, or B, we start over. We can pretty much bring in who we want, and we can go from there. I think the Lakers, by signing LeBron, allows them to take a fish in 24-25 and say, hey, listen, we scratched your back, now you scratch ours. And that one player is not LaMelo Ball. It's a guy that was in a movie called in a movie this summer about basketball that was also executive produced by some guy named LeBron James, and that player is not Juan Gomez, it's Anthony Edwards.
Mm, okay, gotcha. Uh, Let me see if I had a follow up. I think I had a follow up on. I'm gonna leave it there. So follow up question is: what does it mean to LeBron James' legacy that he could eclipse 40,000 points by the end of this 2 year commitment?
I think it's to LeBron once he passes Kareem is putting a number up that nobody else will touch. I mean, if you're LeBron James, you're going to give it everything you have once you break the record to be able to put a number that nobody in this league is going to touch. I think 40,000 points is just an amazing feat, especially with the fact of you'll have close to 15,000 rebounds and close to 15,000 assists potentially. Those numbers are just insane altogether. So I think LeBron is motivated to get to the 40,000 because no one's ever done it before.
Got it. Got it. Last topic. No, there's two more topics.
Okay.
One quick one. Does the WWE get sold within the next 2 years?
Yes.
Okay, and to who?
I think it's Netflix.
And not Fox Sports?
Here's the thing. Netflix already has I know you're saying, wow, they're a third streaming service in 5 years. But hear me out on this one. Yes, they're in bed with Peacock on this whole entire ad thing, this whole entire streaming service thing. And, it works out perfectly. But if you think about it, Netflix and the WWE go hand in hand together. Let's take away the Vince McMahon documentary and just look at Netflix as a whole. Netflix is looking to get into sports. Their F1 show is amazing. Before we
Yes.
hopped on, I just finished watching the Untold, the first episode of season 2 of Untold with Manti Te'o. They're doing groundbreaking documentaries at the same time, which allows you to get into the inner parts of whatever they're discussing. You give Netflix, who's looking to get people to subscribe to them, the WWE library because they have the ability to catalog it, along with wrestling events that people can watch. You're drawing a different demographic that does not have it. And on top of that, the WWE, who is expanding internationally, can also be able to take in on it because I think Netflix is now going into Indonesia, and that's another 150 plus million people in Indonesia. The WWE doesn't have a type of reach, and we saw what's happening with the E now. If you watched NXT last night, the live edition, you had Braun Breaker and Tyler Bate, who was the NXT UK champion, in the same ring together because they're going to wrestle, but WWE UK will be no longer existent in September because it becomes WWE Europe. So it's all about trying to expand the brand. And I also think that whoever allows Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, and Nick Khan to run the place and not take it over is going to be the best option. And I think Netflix is perfect for the programming. I think their programming is perfect. Can you imagine what Netflix would do with Talking Smack?
Yes. Yes.
So that's my thought.
So
I think it's Netflix.
you
Fox is
mentioned a
great,
bit.
but Fox don't have a streaming service.
Yeah, and you don't need one. And we'll get into that. I think yes, they followed the Dana White
Hmm.
situation and let him run it or let her run it, and you basically become the bank. I agree with you on that.
Yep.
Um, Last item. Let's talk about Big Ten. Oodles of money.
You're talking
So
about the six major sport and professional sports now, and
yes,
that's kind of
yes,
collegiate now.
yes, oodles of money. Okay,
Hmm.
so in 2017, Big Ten signed their deal. 6 years, $2.5 billion.
Hmm.
Today it was announced their new deal, 7 years, close to $7.25 billion, almost close to $8 billion.
Yep.
So we went from $440,000 a year to almost $1.2 billion a year. For the people that say linear TV is dead, how wrong do you say they are?
Look who's the commissioner of the Big Ten. The commissioner of the Big Ten is Kevin Warren. Where did he come from? The NFL, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yep.
He saw the NFL model, how this works. And then also at the same time, the Big Ten added two teams in Los Angeles, which is now a larger television market, which is the largest
Yes.
market the Big Ten has. And it's not just a larger market, it's two football schools that are now coming to the Big Ten. The deal is extreme. Like it's a lot of money. It's up there with the new SEC contract with ESPN for exclusivity. But the Big Ten's doing it right, Ted, because
Yes.
you're going to have, and Kevin Warren said that you're mimicking what the NFL does on Sunday. You know
Yes.
you got a 12 o'clock game on Fox. You know you got a 3:30 game on CBS, and you know I'm sorry, on yes, and then the 8 o'clock game is now NBC.
Yes. NBC and Peacock.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. Let me make sure I have it. It's Fox at 12, CBS at 3:30, and
Right.
then NBC at nighttime. So
Right.
you know exactly who is playing when, what channel they're on, and you can plan your day around it. I think it's the same way as the NFL. I mean, the number is huge, but that's what USC does, Ted. Because can you imagine USC and Ohio State on a Saturday night for a conference championship potentially?
Of course. Of course. I got to go back and talk about, they're talking about over the air.
Mm-hmm.
ESPN, not involved. ESPN. It's kind of like, and I'm gonna do a stream later on where I get on with my buddies and we usually talk left and right. We
Hmm.
usually talk MSNBC and Fox News. It seems
Hmm.
like the Big Ten went the route of, hey, we want over the air people,
Sure.
eyeballs,
Hmm.
period. So,
And it's smart.
my question for you is, how important is the Notre Dame and NBC deal when it comes up to be renewed? Because right now it's about no, I think it's north of $22 million a year, 22 to $25 million a year. I'm hearing it could go. The new deal could be 75 a year or more. How important is it for NBC to have that Notre Dame at 3:30 and the evening game at 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern time for the late game?
I think it's super important if you want to keep college football on the map. But I think now, I think what's more important to NBC, in my opinion, besides keeping Notre Dame, is now you want to put your hat into the championship series mix. If they continue to do it, after the 25 season, I think more important to NBC is the fact that now that you hold the Big Ten on your network, that you can now get your foot in the door of getting those national championship ratings,
Gotcha.
and get into that Power Five bowl game spots. And I think because Notre Dame is going to be Notre Dame. They've been Notre Dame's been Ted. You talk about the demographic of being 57 for baseball. Notre Dame football is like 55 and up. Okay,
Right,
that's a staple. You're not going to get rid of that. So you're going to have to raise the television money because NBC saw Notre Dame just saw what the Big Ten got. They saw it, and they
right,
also saw what the SEC got from ABC from Disney.
right.
So they know. And no, I think for NBC it's paramount to keep Notre Dame and keep it mostly at 3:30. And if those nights that Notre Dame is playing night games, of course you'll switch the lineup for the Big Ten. But Ted, can you imagine when NBC does a Notre Dame Michigan game? What you can possibly do with that?
Yes.
You can put the Notre Dame broadcast on a Peacock and basically go full fledged, multiple streams, multiple things on Peacock and NBC. So no, I think it's important to keep Notre Dame because they play a lot of the Big Ten schools, and it's
I,
more
I, I
coverage.
think I think for them, what's going to be key is you got Saturday, like I said, you got your 3:30 and your 7 or 8 window for Saturday night. You got Sunday night football for Sunday night. Um, what a time to be a football fan. You got high school football Friday nights. Uh,
I'm
you get,
interested what ESPN is going to do with the SEC deal. That's what I'm really interested in because they
well,
gave
that's in
the SEC.
24.
That's in
That
24. Yeah, that's how when NBC when CBS transitions out of the SEC and ESPN walks in the door.
right.
Because if you think about it, Ted, 24 is when SC and UCLA joined the Big Ten,
Yes.
but
Yes.
24 is also year that Oklahoma and Texas joined the SEC.
That's
So
true.
I'm really interested to see Ted how ESPN and Disney and ABC take advantage of the SEC package.
Right.
So I'm interested in seeing it both ways.
Uh, One last question about SEC is, what's the team that you expect to be that powerhouse in the SEC that Disney can really wrap their arms around?
I mean, we and next year you're gonna have Ole Miss because Arch Manning's gonna be Texas because Arch Manning's gonna be at Texas.
Okay.
I think Arch Manning going to Texas gives the SEC another school, especially one that you can now piggyback on the Longhorn Network, who is ran by what ESPN.
Right.
Now we're going to get Arch Manning down our throats. It's I'm going to be glad to see not. Can you imagine how much coverage Alabama's going to get on ESPN now that the fact that the ESPN is now holding the SEC? But
Yes.
now you have another storyline. It makes Texas involved in it, you know, and you just see recruits going left and right. But I think Texas is the next big thing because of Arch Manning.
Um, I know I said I only have one more question, but tell me, when you see money thrown around like this, 7 years, $8 billion, at what point outside of the NIL, at what point do we start to really take care of these student athletes?
In college sports, I think the NIL was brought in. I think to even the playing field, Ted. But I think NIL will change when you start getting this conference money moved up even more. I think that you said $7.2 billion for the Big Ten on the the new package, and Ted, these players and these schools aren't getting any of it. At
Right.
some point, it's going to have to bend and break, where you're going to have to give one or the other. I think these television deals are going to force teams to give NIL money more. I mean, Texas Tech got what $25,000 a player, for football. Can you
Right.
imagine now that the SEC is going to have to be getting this extra money, or the Big Ten's getting extra money, that you start seeing Northwestern or your Vanderbilts giving these guys $30,000 because hey, we just got 7.2 billion, and our share allows us to get an additional, you know, 200 to 300, $400 million throughout the deal.
Got it. Got it.
It's going to make it hard to recruit.
Um, just a statement from you. And the statement is, was Disney too SEC heavy or centric to, like, why didn't they dip their paws into this new deal?
It's real simple. If I can have Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, LSU, Florida, the resurgence of Tennessee, and Georgia all on my network, and be able to get those SEC matchups that CBS has thrived for years, and have full 100% access when I already have the SEC network situation, it was no brainer. The same reason why everybody was shocked and surprised to see the SEC leave, the SEC leave CBS. Like, why would you leave something you people know?
Right.
Because it's the SEC. If I'm ESPN and Disney, I'm throwing everything at the SEC before I throw at the Big Ten. No offense to Ohio State, but Ohio State's not Alabama.
Um, Danny, what does this mean to, like, Big Ten basketball?
They're saying they're going to be able to get more Big Ten games on like ESPN and ABC. They're also putting Big Ten other places throughout the duration of the contract. I mean, it's an additional 8 to 10 games that they're going to have. I'm really interested to see how this works because Big Ten basketball is not huge.
Right.
It's not superly huge.
So,
So I
like,
think that this is a business deal for football. The same way the SEC is not big on basketball. It was mostly for football, so they'll make their money at football. Cruising basketball until we get to football season next year.
because so I was hearing earlier they mentioned NBC is going to have 40 or so um, men's college basketball games, Big Ten. And I said, but they mentioned to be streamed on Peacock. And I said, number one, does that move the needle? And then number two, we don't even know the amount of users that are, I mean, outside of Amazon saying this year, for the next 3 years, Nielsen is going to be able to gauge how many people watch Thursday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a waste of real estate sending it to Peacock and not to their regional sports networks or somehow on
You
NBC?
you want it on Peacock because Ted, it provides more value to Peacock every single month. You have EPL now. We have Big Ten football. Now we're gonna. I honestly think that the NBA television deal might revolutionize how we do all this anyway. But Peacock needs as many stuff on as possible. And to be honest with you, put on a regional sports network, not everybody has those same regional sports networks.
Okay.
So now you're splitting coverage, you're splitting things further. So I think that this new deal will now take precedence of what the rest of sports will look like in the next 5 or 6 years.
Last question for you. How important is the new NBA deal for Turner Sports?
It's everything. I
So it's
think
like what?
Turner, everything, Discovery is going, this will be the purchase Discovery puts together. Discovery will give the NBA everything they want, including the Batgirl movie, to make sure that it does not leave the Turner family. There's just no way. And to be honest with you, no matter what ESPN does, the Turner imprint on the cable side of things is immense. Now, if I'm the NBA, I will push Turner to now offer more additional games on TBS instead of NBA Network, NBA TV, no offense, NBA TV. But if I'm Disney, if I'm Warner Bros. Discovery, I should go all in, and I have two networks that can get it done. I mean, it's time, maybe time to bring back Wednesday TBS on top of their hockey coverage. So I think you can revolutionize it a certain way, and I think it's getting the other network involved in it. So I think I can't wait to see what they come up with.
Got it. Danny, I want to thank you for coming through. Tell us where we can find you, listen to you, read what you are interested in writing about, all the above, and find you also on social media.
Check me out on our show Saturdays, which is called the Sports Insight 757 with Jay Lee. Saturday mornings, 9 a.m., Sports Radio 850, 96.5 FM in the Norfolk, Virginia area, otherwise known as 757. If you want to stream the show live, go to our Facebook page, which will be on Facebook as Sports Insight 757 or the Sports Radio 96.5 Facebook page. If you're on your app, just download the Sports Radio 850 app on every single downloadable store, Google Play, Google Store, the Apple iTunes Store, so on and so forth. Also, I do have an AFC North preview for the three-point conversion coming out in the next week, previewing the entire AFC North. So check that out as well too. And I'm always around. Follow me on Twitter at Danny number 3 Thompson. That's DANNY number 3 Thompson on Twitter. And Ted, you never know where I'll pop up next.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I
And this
mean,
was
I'm your favorite. I mean, I said I'm your favorite radio show host, free agent.
this was nothing up my sleeve. Want to thank you once again, guys, for listening, coming through, all the above. And you know to go to latenightparents.com. All right, later.